Namaskaram. Welcome to my channel, VPK Nutrition, Mind Body Healing with Pushpa. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about emotional health or emotional well-being. Now again, why is this important? A lot of times we focus only on our physical health and make sure you don't have the chronic illnesses and pain and all those kinds of things. But a lot of these physical ailments are usually rooted much deeper within us, in our psyche, in our emotions. So it's important to be able to regulate our emotions, understand our emotions, and because once you can find balance and find peace within, then your thoughts will also be more positive. Otherwise, you generate a lot of negative thoughts, which leads to a lot of stress and an inability to cope with life's challenges. And again, they start to manifest as inflammation and all kinds of diseases in the physical body. So this has always been Ayurvedic approach. However, even the modern medicine is starting to look at that. So I'll be sharing a couple of studies about that as well. And then so I will also have some ideas about Ayurveda, how it approaches it based on the body types. And also at the end of the video, I'll give you some tips on how to get started to take care of your emotional health and also spiritual well-being. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. First of all, I want to thank all of my viewers for watching regularly and also those who have already subscribed. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. And if you find all of these useful, please do share with your friends and family so they can also be benefited. So let's begin with our episode today. So let's begin with the definition of stress. Now again, stress is something a lot of people experience throughout their life. Again, some more than others, and how we deal with them is also dependent upon the person, because it also depends on your background, your situation in life, and so on and so forth. So again, stress is unavoidable. Everybody has to experience it at some point or the other. Now, what is the definition of stress? And I just wanted to give you the definition given by the World Health Organization. Stress is defined as a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. Stress is a natural human response that prompts us to address challenges and threats in our life. Everyone experiences stress to some degree. The way we respond to stress, however, makes a big difference to our overall well-being. So why is it important to understand stress and what causes it? Because we know stress is definitely related to a lot of the chronic illnesses we see today, but also to mental illnesses, anxiety, depression, and all kinds of mental issues, as of course emotional, and also it affects our spiritual well-being. And again, Ayurveda always talks, swastha is a definition for health, which means being in tune with your body, mind, and spirit all in union. So naturally, one of them gets out of balance, we're not going to feel healthy. Even if your numbers say you're fine, you know inside that you're not really feeling 100%. So the real definition of health is feeling 100% and having the energy to go about our day and also be happy doing it. So let's look at some statistics. If you look at the global statistics, they report about 35% of the people are stressed. And again, this is among 143 countries. And the US actually has about 55% people reporting that they are feeling stress. So that's quite a big number, 1/3 globally, and about more than half the people in the US. So again, this is something very important to talk about. And most people, and I see a lot of patients, they have a lot of stress in their lives. I mean, some of them are unavoidable, because of job situation and things like that. But at the same time, it doesn't mean it's hopeless, because we can always learn to cope with it at the best way we can under our circumstances. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So from a modern perspective, again, most people rely upon evidence-based studies to give us ideas of treatment. So I actually picked about 3 studies. Again, there are lots of studies on mental health and all the different disorders and stuff like that, anxiety, depression, etc. However, very few studies talk about the effect of emotional health, which is, and also what are some of the values that you can have that might actually help you improve your emotional well-being, your mental well-being, and also reduce a lot of the stress in your life, and also help you better cope with stress. So there are 3 studies I'm going to share. One of them was a study, 2 of them actually on forgiveness, and then the last one is on gratitude. Study 1 was done on a group of college students, 148 college students, to see the association between the severity of lifestyle, stress, exposure, forgiveness, and mental health. It was a very interesting study. Of course, the average age was about 19. They're all in college in the last 4 years or so. And then the results showed very interesting findings of how forgiveness can actually help with reducing stress. Now again, the rating scale was like 1 to 5, and then they used the Heartland forgiveness scale, which has about 18 items that it measures, and then the higher the score, the greater the forgiveness. That's how it is. And of course, I've shared this article in the description, as well as given you the link for the Heartland forgiveness scale if you want to take one yourself. So let's look at the results. The results showed forgiveness does buffer the negative effects of lifetime stress severity on mental health, and that this moderation occurs in a gradual fashion. Most strongly related to poorer mental health for participants exhibiting the lowest levels of forgiveness. So that means the mental health was worse when they have lower levels of forgiveness, significantly associated with poorer mental health for persons exhibiting moderate levels of forgiveness, and severity was unrelated to mental health for persons who were highest in forgiveness. Study number 2 examines the relationship between the state forgiveness, meaning the very forgiving person, using that as a resource to create positive, close relationships among older adults, which is very important for their well-being, physical well-being. In this study, they looked at 3 different aspects. One is comparing the severity of the transgression and its effect on physical health. So versus like if you have just minor transgression, like annoying behavior from the other person, versus severe transgression, how much of an impact it had on physical health. The second one is the feelings of forgiveness towards a particular person or event, and that could decrease the negative impact on physical health. And if you have more forgiveness, does that buffer the effect on physical health? And then the third one is comparing the forgiveness on transgressions based on relationships. So if you have a spouse or a partner versus other close relationships, is there a difference? Now again, you can also think about it as when the aging population, there are 2 aspects which are very important. As you're older, people with a partner or a spouse is actually known to be much happier because they have some companionship, so there's no loneliness. And the second thing is, of course, many of the older population, one of them becomes a caregiver for the other if they have health issues. So again, these social ties are very important in order to maintain good health. However, on the flip side, if the partner or spouse is not good for you, is hurting you or anything, then that can also have a negative impact on the physical and mental and emotional health. So that is something very important to keep in mind. So always, number 1 we have to think about is taking care of ourselves. The self-care is extremely important. Now, stress also experienced in the case of because of close relationships is also known to cause a lot of physical and mental things like depression, inflammation, and also high blood pressure. So it's very important to regulate stress. This study was done in 2015 to 2016 via a phone conversation, getting surveys filled out. It lasted about 52 minutes. They had about 380 respondents over the age of 50. They basically covered these 3 criteria that I mentioned before. So let's look at the results of this study. The results showed, number 1, in general, greater transgression severity was associated with worse self-rated health. Number 2, state forgiveness. Older adults were more likely to forgive their transgression. Experiencing a more severe transgression was associated with worse self-rated health. In contrast, among the older adults who were less likely to forgive their transgression, there was no association between transgression severity and self-rated health. Number 3, Among those reporting higher levels of state forgiveness, that is more likely to forgive the transgressor for the recent transgression, the association between who the transgressor was, that is a spouse or partner versus another close relationship, and self-rated health was not significant. But among those reporting lower levels of state forgiveness, the transgressor being a close or other social relationship was associated with worse health compared to when it was a spouse or partner. So as you can see, the results were very interesting. Of course, there is a link between forgiveness for a severe transgression, better physical health. We know that forgiveness helps. The second thing, important thing, surprising thing, I guess, is that when a person is naturally very forgiving in nature, it didn't matter whether it was a severe or a mild transgression. However, the other way around, if they were not a forgiving nature, whether it is mild or severe, it didn't have any difference in the health impact. However, when they're a naturally forgiving type, when it was a mild transgression, there was no issue there. But then if it was a severe transgression, there was a huge impact on the physical health, declining physical health. This was a very surprising finding in the study. And then the third thing too, they found that when they had the transgression was, even if they were forgiving, when it was a transgression from a close relative versus a spouse or partner, they were less forgiving. So again, this could be several reasons. If you have a spouse, maybe you're just used to them, or you're dependent on them, or maybe they are your caregiver. So there could be a lot of reasons. Again, there's no way to know all of these things, but again, these are some interesting findings. So the bottom line is forgiveness does have a positive impact on mental health and physical health. And so again, this is something we all need to practice. Study 3 was also done in 2015 to show and then it consisted of 186 men and women participants. They all had stage B asymptomatic heart failure, and whether they knew it or not. And then the average age was about 66 plus or minus 10 years. So, and then they studied the association between gratitude and spiritual well-being, fatigue, mood, sleep, inflammation, and also cardiac efficacy, self-efficacy. So the results actually were very good. It showed less fatigue, better sleep, less depressive moods, better efficacy, cardiac efficacy among these patients. It showed the inflammatory biomarkers were also much lower when they were more grateful, and also spiritual well-being was pretty good because this was mediated by the attitude of gratitude. So as you can see, and again, these are all not new concepts. Everybody knows forgiveness is a good thing and gratitude is a good thing, and all of the scriptures and everything, whatever you follow in your life, teaches these things. But these are nice to have studies that actually substantiate what we already know in tangible ways, like how it affects you physically. Because a lot of times, like I started in the beginning, I said, you start with emotional well-being, then you can fix your mind, your thoughts, and then your physical body. Because if you try to go the other way, just popping pills to make your symptoms go away, you're really not dealing with the root of the problem. And definitely that is what is going to give you true happiness and joy. Now let's look at the Ayurvedic approach to emotional well-being, mental health, as well as body types, how they relate to the different body types. Because Ayurveda is always about holistic health for sure, and also how each person is different. Now again, these studies that we looked at are not really classified based on that because it's a generic thing. So there could be a lot of flaws in the study. However, in Ayurveda, we look at the specific body types to help them in the proper way. Let's look at the doshas one by one, the body types, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. First is the Vata type. Now, Vatas are the people with the air and space dominance. So they're the really skinny people who love to keep moving, always active and enthusiastic. And also they're very erratic in their digestion, as well as they're having a lot of mood swings, and usually stress responses, anxiety and nervousness, fearfulness, being overwhelmed, and all of those things, and pure exhaustion. Generally, because their mind is constantly active, they also tend to forget a lot of things. So they may be those people who can actually forgive. They may or may not forgive because they are very sensitive to a lot of things. However, they do forget a lot of things. So again, so many things do not affect them as much, and they're the ones who generally flee or freeze. They don't fight back. Now the second type, which is the Pitta type or the type A personality, they are more the fiery people. So they actually are very intense and passionate. So definitely when there is a stressful situation, they get very angry, irritable, upset, frustrated, and they maybe get, don't deal with stress very well, at least initially. But then after a while, once they've cooled down, they can actually find more logic in the situation, and then they're more sattvic in nature when the light is shining through. So they actually are more forgiving in nature in general, because they can logically deduce, okay, it is okay, and then kind of let things go. But and Vata and Pitta do not hold grudges as much. So again, the forgiveness that we talked about with the mild transgressions, they can easily do it. They can also give up, let go of a lot of because they're very strong, they can let go of the severe transgressions as well and become very resilient. However, over a period of time, that can start to accumulate and make things worse for them. And then the third type, which is a Kapha type, they are actually the water and earth dominant, so more grounded in nature, loving and kind people. However, they also tend to become very attached and possessive. And so in close relationships, they may be more forgiving of their spouse or people who they love or care about. However, if it is some other people, then they may kind of withdraw and really not forgive. So when we talked about those studies, if you can relate these factors, that's something that would help you understand these body types. And their response to stress is usually withdrawal. They kind of avoid the situation, avoid the steps, and then kind of take a time to recharge or process everything within. And they are also the type who stuff a lot of their anxiety and sadness and everything inside. And so these do manifest as depression later on. So Ayurveda, it's very clear about how the body types, the 5 elements, dictate their nature and their behavior. So again, everybody has a different way of dealing with stress, and also a different way of coming up with coping mechanisms. So what is the message from today's episode? We know that forgiveness and gratitude can be 2 great tools, resources that we can use to improve our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Now, Ayurveda and yogic traditions have given many things for us to do on a daily basis to keep ourselves balanced and at peace. Of course, I've already discussed a lot of the techniques even before for stress and general well-being. So eating a proper diet, which is healthy, well-cooked, easily digestible, following the daily routine using the dosha clock, and I will share the link in the description, getting a good night's sleep, also doing some exercise regularly to remove a lot of the tensions that we feel, and also avoiding any negative influences like watching the news too much or social media, things that can cause a lot of stress. Now let's look at some of the tips that we can use specifically for reducing emotional stress and help our body and mind. Number 1, cultivate the art of forgiveness. Now again, the studies show that, and we also know personally, if you practice, you're going to see the results of that. Again, I've given you that quiz in the link. If you are interested in trying it out and see how forgiving you really are, you can go and try it. Again, start practicing that right from today. Because the more you forgive others and yourself too, when you make mistakes, forgive yourself as well, then you're going to feel more balanced and more at peace with yourself. Number 2 is acceptance. Now accept the things the way they are, and also let go of the past. So one quote that really made a difference for me was by Sri Ravi Shankar, which I read on Facebook many years ago. It said that past is destiny, future is free will. Now again, if you believe in the karma theory, whatever you went through in the past is supposed to happen in your life, but then what you create for the future depends on how you behave today, your mental attitude today, the forgiveness and the gratitude we're talking about. So again, this is something to remember going forward, because if you're always stuck in the past and feel like you're a victim of whatever happened to you, or if you haven't forgiven yourself or others in the past, then you're going to be stuck there and really close your heart down. You cannot really be forgiving or grateful for anything that you have. One thing that has helped me is also compassion meditation. Now, this is again compassion. You start with compassion for yourself and then expand that to somebody you love, somebody who is difficult in your life, and then total strangers and the whole world around you. This actually widens your circle for forgiveness as well as gratitude. And I have a link in the description. I've shared this before as a guided meditation. So if you would like to try it, please do try it. I have been doing this religiously every day for the last 12 years, and it has done wonders in my life, and I can attest for that completely. So please do try that. Number 3 is yogasanas. Again, doing yoga postures with the breathing, inhalation, exhalation, helps to relieve a lot of the stress and the tensions we lock up in our joints, allows the free flow of prana, the life energy throughout the body, so you feel much lighter and are able to make better decisions. Number 4 is pranayama. Pranayama is again breathing exercises like Kapalabhati, which releases a lot of the toxins, mental, emotional toxins from the body, and also doing Nadi Shodhana, which is alternate nostril breathing, where you're balancing the lunar and the solar energies. If you have too much lunar energy, can cause a lot of depression going within. Solar energy makes you more angry, irritable, and all of that. So if you kind of balance these out, your mind will be more at peace and more calm, and you can make better decisions and also feel better within. Number 5 is journaling. Again, this is something I have used myself over many, many years. When you have a lot of emotional backup or back in your mind and you're not able to share with others or let it go, it's good to actually journal it, journal your feelings, your ideas, your thoughts, and kind of go back and read it when you're in a better frame of mind. Maybe you could come up with your own solutions or even understand it. At the same time, you can even let it go, because sometimes when you put it on paper, it leaves your mind, and so you're not ruminating on the same thoughts. Number 6 is, of course, gratitude. Have an attitude of gratitude. You can start by writing one thing that you're grateful for either in the morning or before you go to bed. So this will become a habit, and then hopefully over a period of time, it'll become second nature to you. And you will find relief from a lot of the traumas and things like that. You hold on to the baggages we carry. Again, we also believe that we bring baggages or samskaras, vasanas, we call it, from even past lives. Again, for those who believe past lives, if you don't believe it, even from your childhood, you can say, you bring a lot of these, hold on to a lot of these, even unknowingly, subconsciously. So a lot of these things get released more and more. And unless you actually release a lot of these things, which are very basic to our personality, you really cannot find the true spiritual happiness, the bliss, the joy within your heart. We can talk about it, read about it, but to really experience it, you need to let go of all of these negative baggage that we hold on to. So for this week, listen to your body, observe your mind, and heal yourself. I'll see you again next time with a new episode. So have a wonderful week ahead.